How to burn up equity and goodwill with one other person's giant loogie in a single moment. What are the problems with some of the teams who lost and things we'd like to have a do-over on? This is the College Game Day podcast recording on Monday morning, September 8th. Rece Davis, Pete Thamel, and Dan Wetzel. Now, I will get to the giant loogie, and boy, is that one magic loogie if it leads to a buyout eventually at Florida. But let's start with the game where we were. Michigan and Oklahoma, there's so much to get to in this game. I mean, there's the play of John Mateer. There's Bryce Underwood, moments of brilliance and certainly moments where he looked like a freshman. There was a sideline confrontation. But I think the thing that probably is captivating the country about this game happened on College Game Day in the morning. It was when we were treated, Dan, to the dulcet tones of Pete Thamel singing the Jay Knott song. Were you as enthralled as I was, Dan, by Pete's vocal prowess?
And Rece, as you know, I'm delighted to be able to report this injury update in the form of a song. With apologies to our friends at the Calgorithm, O-T-T-T-O-G-O, Jaden Ott is set to go. Back to you, Rece. Wow.
I was confused when he said, I'm going to sing. I thought he's not. But I got to say, Pete, American Idol, The Voice, what do you...
Definitely not Dancing with the Stars.
I would have a little spin around chair as you sang "Ought to Go." Tremendous work, Pete. Yeah. Represented.
Well, he played about as well as I sang on Saturday. So.
Exactly. How nervous are you to sing on national? I mean, you had to have been like, this could go spectacularly wrong and end my career right here.
So the good thing about Game Day, when it goes spectacularly wrong, they actually like that. So like that, there's always like part of the hope is if you really, really flop or mess up, Pat McAfee has a improvisational gift where he would somewhat make you feel better while making the situation worse. So,
Rece, you guys do have meetings before the show to discuss these things, correct? Like, who signed off on this?
Yeah, we do. This was one that Pete kept to himself and opted not to put out before the floor, or else maybe we would have had a band accompanying him, or maybe he would have been singing Right by Boomer and Sooner in front of the schooner. So, he kept it to himself to keep it low key. He also had an ace in the hole. He knows my affinity, if not my outright love for that song.
It's a great song.
It's a great song. The Calgorithm people get upset when we do it now that Jaden Knott has O-T-T-T-O-G-O to Norman. They think the song should stay at Cal and not ever be uttered about him as a Sooner. They don't like that. So at any rate, this has become a little bit of a one-man offensive show with help from his wide receivers. I mean, I'm sure at some point we'll give them some great moments. But John Mateer sort of fits in that Oklahoma genre of quarterbacks. He's got some gunslinger to him. He's going to do some things at some point this year that will go spectacularly wrong. He's going to throw some really bad interceptions, but it's going to be more than offset by the swashbuckling bravado of making big plays, slinging it sidearm, turning, a potential loss into a 45-yard gain. Pete, I thought, he's as entertaining a player as we've seen. There were still some moments when it looked like it got a little fast for him, and he would get antsy in the pocket and maybe take off. But he makes them different than they were a year ago. That's for sure.
He's definitely a top 3 must watch for the rest of the season for that reason, right? Like the spectacular is spectacular, but there were also some throws where like, whoa, everyth's like fastball with him. He doesn't seem to have a ton of touch, and that's obviously, a zit on the Mona Lisa. But yeah, he was electric. And I think my takeaway from the game, Rece, was, two places who had seasons they were not accustomed to last year took two drastically different approaches to the quarterback portal. Oklahoma said, we're going to go get the dude who accounted for 44 touchdowns and started a bunch of games and is a proven commodity. And Michigan went, and they spent a bunch of money for him, right? And then Michigan went and spent a bunch of money for a, resplendent, tantalizing young talent who hadn't proven anything. And I think they both got that, right? I mean, Bryce Underwood was fine the other night, but he was 9 for 24, looked like a freshman at times, and Oklahoma got a proven veteran to produce immediately. And I think the result of that game could be brought back to that, to that philosophical choice months ago.
Yeah, I think Mateer won the game for him. So many big plays that he created. It's a high wire act. It's fun. He's such a good runner also. They should line up the old wishbone at some point and run a wishbone play for him. Can we get somewhere in there? They're playing Temple. Maybe Kent State. Kent State is not good. Can we run a wishbone just for old time's sake? Get Coach Switzer out there. All of that. It's I thought he played a great game. He obviously had some turnovers, kept them in, kept Michigan in it a little bit. Bryce Underwood is going to be a great college football player, and he is just not going to be a great college football player on Saturday night in his second start. He needs more talent around him. The recruiting's going pretty well at Michigan. They got to find some receivers, better O-line. There's a lot of things. But I thought that game kind of, to Pete's point, went as expected. This is what you get when you bring in a great guy who's proven himself at Washington State. This is when you get, okay, in 2 to 3 years, Bryce Underwood is going to be one of the best players in college football. He has all those physical skills. You put it around him. But on this night, you're better off going with the older transfer portal. It's kind of why in college basketball, they talk about no one's recruiting high school players anymore. Like the top 60, 70 kids are going to like the Atlantic 10 and stuff like that, because the main schools are just saying, forget it. It's a little bit of that, but when you can get a Bryce Underwood, I think Oklahoma would have taken him. They would have spent that money too.
Well, here's the thing with Underwood, and this game is going to be a great learning experience for him. And 1 year to the next, as we've seen, even last year, Arizona State going from the bottom of their conference and then going to the Big 12, winning it, being picked last, finishing first. Florida State, maybe picked first last year, going to last. Now maybe they're going to be first this year. So I'm offering the caveats first and saying that maybe Michigan's schedule is going to turn out to be more difficult than you would look at it in the preseason and say this game obviously was always going to be tricky. But other than Ohio State, none of their Big Ten opponents had winning conference records a year ago. But there are some games that will be difficult. They have to go to Nebraska. They go to Southern California. It's off to a good start. They're at Michigan State. We had a big moment on Saturday night against Boston College, and what was a great game. But, they don't play Penn State. They don't play Oregon. They don't play Illinois. So there's going to be opportunities for Bryce Underwood to take this game where he probably didn't play to the level that he had hoped, where things got a little crazy in front of him, as they are wont to do with young quarterbacks and Brett Venables' defense on the other side. Although he had a losing record against freshmen and true freshman quarterbacks at Oklahoma prior to Saturday night. Now he's back to 500. I think that makes him 22-5 in his career, though. So the long term, it's been really good. It's going to be just fine at Michigan. I think Michigan could still find itself in the hunt in the Big Ten. Are they as good as the teams at the top? I don't think so. Not yet. Could they be a fly in the ointment and take advantage of their schedule? Possibly. So, I'm not worried about Michigan at all. So that brings me to Oklahoma. I'm not quite there yet with Oklahoma being a threat to win the SEC, largely for the same reasons. The schedule, because their schedule is pretty daunting, both the home and road. No matter, they're already vastly improved. But after the Temple game that Dan mentioned, which, they're on the road at Temple. That's another theme. All of these schools are all of a sudden playing these games away from home, and you wonder why. Remember, Missouri went to UMass last year, which, that was probably a direct result of some of the alums' contributions to make sure that that Missouri got in there. Yep. But they've got Auburn, which will be a fascinating game with Jackson Arnold coming back to Norman. They've got Dallas. They're at South Carolina. They're at Tennessee. They're at Alabama. They finish home, but they've got Missouri and LSU. I've got LSU ranked number 1 in the country right now, and Missouri. Bo Prabula, probably the most underrated and maybe as good a fit as any quarterback in the country that came out of the portal. He's kind of doing for Mizzou what Mateer is doing for Oklahoma. And, so I'm not there yet with Oklahoma being a contender to win the SEC, but they may have a big say in who does, or at least who plays in the SEC championship game.
I want to talk about Deion Burks because I really thought this was a breakout game for him at receiver. He had 7 catches for 101 yards. He went to Bryce Underwood's high school, as they mentioned. Kirk and Chris mentioned a bunch of times on the broadcast. He's a spectacular talent. He had been at Purdue 2 seasons ago. Was really banged up last year. I mean, Oklahoma's receiving core was just decimated last year. There's really no other way to say it. So, as sideways as it seemed, a couple things just getting back to baseline functional and getting guys healthy and rolling was a big part of that. So as much as I want to talk about that, I did catch the subtle jab at Dan's lack of donating to UMass. And perhaps how that could have led to mighty Bryant storming from Smithfield, Rhode Island into Amherst for the win on Saturday. Dan, do you have any thoughts?
You made it about 8 minutes into this thing without already getting on that. Look, this was huge for Brent Venables. This was huge for the momentum of the program, the recruiting for the next month, all of that. They go 6-7. Everyone's sitting there saying, "Is this guy it?" I mean, this could be hot seat. Put him on the top of the list, or it could have gone the other way. This was a great night for Oklahoma. The stadium was beautiful. It was a great night. Just, they had 1 million recruits up there. Everything went well. National television. You beat a brand name. How good is that brand? It's not what they were 2 years ago, but doesn't matter. They still won the national title. It's a great helmet to beat. Great night for Oklahoma football, and they will get a lot out of it. And they will walk into that Texas game, presumably, in very, very good shape to see, what can we do. As Rece said, that schedule gets just vicious. I mean, you're talking October 11th, Texas at the Cotton Bowl. Then they're at South Carolina. Then they get Ole Miss. Then they're at Tennessee. Then they're at Alabama. Then they get Missouri at home. Then they get LSU and potentially an SEC championship game. So both of these teams, if you were going to tell me who's going 9-3, it might be Michigan. Okay. It might be Michigan. And that's just the way this is working out in terms of how schedule plays.
And that really emphasizes the point of how do you measure difficulty of schedule once the selection committee gets in there? Now, these two teams, in my judgment, are probably going to lose enough games where they're not going to be being discussed among the last few at-large teams. All of this is exactly what people have talked about in the offseason. Where do you draw the line? Last year, to me, you drew the line at who did disqualifying things, the teams that got left out. I readily admit the teams that got in didn't play that level of schedule. How do you balance that? That's what's incumbent on the committee once we get a little farther down the road on that. I don't know exactly where to go next, whether to go
can I get one more point on this game?
For hot seat? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So Michigan, Sherrone Moore. Now, to take it back to content stallions, because everything does in college football. No, the Cole Connor Stallions case.
He was supposed to be there, by the way. Somebody told me he was there.
Oh, I bet he was there. Probably, yeah, he was there.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's not hard to find. Anyway, you go back to this case. Okay, so Sherrone Moore, offense coordinator at Michigan at the time, the story comes out. Now, offense coordinators, they have to they have to check the defense and then plan accordingly, make a strategic decision in an instant on what the proper thing to do. The story breaks. He decides, I'm going to, he utilized that skill set to delete a text thread. That was not a good game plan. But that was his game plan. So the NCAA finds this. The NCAA can find absolutely nothing in this case other than what a private investigating firm or somebody gave them. Classic NCAA can't crack the case of Connor Stallions, really. They get Michigan on nothing except they get very, very angry, as they do, because Sherrone Moore deleted a text thread, which they actually recovered. So did he even delete it? But this is like lying to the FBI about a terrorist attack or something, right? They get very angry. He deserves a 3-game suspension, right? 3 games. But Michigan wisely already said, no, we're going to suspend him 2. We're going to suspend him 2 games, but we get to let him choose. We choose which 2 games, right? Not games 1, 2, 3, or 1 and 2, which would have cost them the Oklahoma game. We're going to let them choose next week, Central Michigan, and then at Nebraska. Because, Rece, you're a father of teenagers. When you ground one of your teenagers, if that ever, I'm sure your children were perfectly behaved, never had to happen. But you don't let them pick the weekends that they get to ground. You're grounded for 2 weekends. Okay, I'd like to choose November when we visit grandma on the farm. There's nothing to do there. That's not how this works. Okay, it's not how you can. I get next Friday free, but I'll sit Saturday. Friday is going to be a big party at Jimmy's. Saturday I might be a little hungover because I'll stay home that night. No, you don't get to choose. But in college football, this huge thing that cost a 3-game suspension, pretty significant. No, you get to pick. Okay, and the NCAA goes along with it. They go along with it, all because we want Sherrone Moore to coach against his alma mater at Oklahoma. So he gets 2 games this year, 1 next year. He's got 1 on layaway. Weirdest penalty. Everybody looks like a fool in this thing. The NCAA looks completely emasculated. Michigan actually looks pretty smart. This whole thing. And so we get this. It's all this stuff happens. Classic college football, just incompetence. So Sherrone Moore can coach against Oklahoma. And what does he do when it's 4th and 2? Kick a field goal. What's he do when it's 4th and 3? Kick a field goal. What's he do when it's 4th and 6? He's got a freshman quarterback on the road. He's got a running attack. He's got Hayes and all these guys, and he's kicking field goals to keep the game close. He's not even trying to win. All of that so we could watch Michigan try to not lose by a lot.
Pete, you've got to find out what he's doing this week, and particularly what he's doing on game day against Central Michigan and Nebraska. And Dan, as Pete knows, one of my favorite things from the Harbaugh suspension was hearing Jim tell the tales about what he was doing. And there was chickens. 1 week. Well, there was 1 week. There was one. He did the chain gang, but there was 1 week in which Sherrone Moore was also suspended. And so he went to Sherrone's house and watched the game, whatever game it was, and started talking about the great sandwiches that Sherrone's wife made. And he goes, and we were able to find the game, as he put it, on the Peacock. And Jim pointed out, I don't have the Peacock, but apparently Sherrone has the Peacock. And Sherrone knew how to find the Peacock, and we watched the game. So, I hope Sherrone will learn from his mentor and give us something as entertaining when he comes back as Jim gave about the Peacock and the chain gang and whatever else Jim did during his time away, which is going to be pretty much forever now after his show cause.
There should be a Fansville spinoff just about what Michigan coaches do on their various suspensions. Because Harbaugh working the chain gang at a high school during his suspension was peak. And then his father was made his dad the coach. Yeah, Jack Harbaugh was it's so good. Michigan
for like a quarter, right? Didn't they divvy him up? Like you get the first series.
Troll the NCAA, and the NCAA takes it. Now they're going to fine him, but you look silly. Thanks for jumping through hoops so we could kick field goals.
Hey, Jack Harbaugh, great guy. I'll take us off track just for a moment. I was calling a Michigan-Indiana basketball game several years ago. Tom Crean was the coach at Indiana. So, Tom, as most people know, is married to Jim's sister. And so Jack Harbaugh was at Indiana, shoot-around, Indiana practice. So I was chatting with him a little bit afterwards. And he said, hey, he goes, why don't you stop in up there and see Jim? He'd love to see you. And I said, Jack, I might do that, but I can trust you. I can guarantee you Jim has no interest in whether I stop by and say hello or not. But good guy. Jack was Jack, wonderful, great family. I
won the game.
I do. Tremendous.
They won that game. He was the interim coach. Yeah.
Which brings us to on the subject of TV networks and big moments, as you brought up right here. I don't think anything quite as big has happened for the CW probably since the Gilmore Girls. And what's going to happen this week with Miami and South Florida playing on the CW. I mean, typically you're in there to see what's going on with Lorelai and Luke, see if Rory's getting into Yale, the whole thing. And now instead you've got
Rece Davis, Gilmore Girl fan. Did not have it. Did not know.
My
hollow, baby.
My daughter loves the Gilmore Girls. You know what's great about the Gilmore Girls? Heightened pace.
I watched every episode, and I don't. I'm going to tell you, I have daughters too. I watched every episode. I do not know.
No, you guys are writers. You should appreciate this. The heightened pace of the dialogue, which is a bit of a callback to like old, 1950s television, where the cop comes in, or maybe like Dragnet or something. The cop comes in and says, we're going to get you to confess. See, you're going to tell us what you're going to do. See, instead they're talking about getting coffee. Great dialogue in it. And also same creators and writers of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which was a fantastic show as well. And the cadence of the dialogue, very similar.
We wish them well. We wish all the Gilmore. And then it gets better at the end, I don't think.
I'm still upset. My daughter had me watch the reunion thing. I'm still upset with the movie at the end. They made,
it was bad.
They made Rory Gilmore, who's this overachiever. She became, this not ne'er-do-well, but, her life didn't go the way it should have. It's not what
reality.
You want.
You're missing out. You missed out on when this is the biggest game.
Who else's life's not going well? Mine right now.
Oh, the All-American Golden Angels University. Come on. Spencer James, Jordan Baker. They had a football drama on there, Rece. If you were going to tell me which CW high school melodrama you were going to watch, I thought it would be All-American. They put a little football in there for us.
Here's the other thing, when you have, as Pete's going to find out, when you have daughters, you want to make sure that you involve yourself with what they're interested in. There was another, and I promise this will be the last aside about television shows. There was another one. I think Elizabeth was probably in junior high or something, maybe a little bit younger. And so it was kind of a snowy day. And she said, "Dad, would you watch this show Downton Abbey with me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, honey. Sure. Let's watch Downton Abbey." And I was like 1-2 episodes in. I'm like, "Let's watch another one. Let's watch another one." So, it happened. Downton Abbey's a great show as well. In that CW miniseries right there, USF and Miami, USF also took Billy Napier's early start right off the rails by beating Florida in the swamp on Saturday, and a man called Brendan Bett might have the most expensive loogie that Billy Napier ever saw anyone else spit, if indeed this goes sideways. Because
Did you call him a Florida man, Rece?
He was a Florida man. Florida man spits loogie, gets 15-yard penalty, immediately gives up a big play on swing play. And then a Grammatica comes in to win a game with a field goal, which is a script that's been written many, many times. Maybe they drive even without the 15-yard penalty, but it sort of epitomized, how tenuous things are. Florida's already put out a statement, saying that things are going well, nothing to see here. I'm like, I don't know why we do this. I mean, I know they're mad. Just make the decision at the end, because now you've at least let everybody know that you're thinking about it when you put out these statements. But now it's huge for Florida going to LSU. It's not the way you want to go in there. People would have been patient, but now you burned up all of the goodwill that you got. And now the question becomes, with 500 record or whatever, when does not quitting become not enough? That was the big thing last year, and I praised them for it. And it is a big stinking deal in this era to keep a team from quitting when it gets sideways, as it did for Florida last season. That's a big deal. Not easy to do. I think Billy's a good coach. But I get the sense, and I'm not even sure it's wrong, not quitting's not enough anymore. You got to not quit and win. And you can't. South Florida's a pretty good team, by the way. But you need to win that game at home, and it's going to have lasting repercussions starting Saturday when Florida plays LSU.
I guess I'll start with Napier. I think the most discouraging part of the loss was just the catastrophic errors that kind of become familiar, right? Remember they had the two guys with the same numbers 2 years ago go out there on special teams. Like to me, as bad as the spitting was, it's the punt that goes over. They've had, just really difficult times on special teams there. And for all of those punitive self-inflicted wounds due to lack of discipline, lack of coaching, you just got to be able to score more against South Florida, right? Like with the weapons they have, they felt really good about the offensive line. DJ Lagway, if you talk to scouts, is the favorite to be the number one pick in 2 drafts. Like, he's resplendently talented. You just got to be able to move the ball more. Like, that's just it. South Florida is very good. Don't get me wrong. But, like, it also wouldn't shock me if they didn't win the AAC either. You know what I mean? I don't think, like, from what I've seen, they played Boise very well I'm not sure how great Boise is, if we're being honest. Like, I just don't think this is like Urban Meyer's 2004 Utah team juggernaut of a mid-major team.
Mhm.
And it, quite frankly, if South Florida had gone there and run their tempo and beaten them with a couple shots that, that offense is good, you say, okay, that's like they didn't even beat them doing what they were doing. They just sort of let Florida mess around and beat themselves. But especially I know what stood out to me was the first down pass with like whatever it was about 2:40 to go, and they had like the possession that lasted 7 seconds. It might have been a little more than that, but it wasn't much. Now there was a drop in there, like right, which this college football is a fragile business. But I just think the inability to score more. What was the final of that game, guys? It was like
18-16.
It was 18-16.
18-16, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't score more than 16 points at home against a mid-major. At this point, as you built methodically like that, poof, that's tough.
It was they got beat in the trenches. That's the part that I thought was most concerning because they have a schedule coming up at LSU, at Miami, Texas, at Texas A&M, and then Mississippi State, which now is rolling a little bit. But they got those four, and that's where you just wonder. I mean, a good team could go 2-2, but is that good? That would be a good team. Right now, it's 3 of the top 7. So USF controlled the line of scrimmage. I thought the drive where they did not kill any clock at the end when they just needed to get out of there with a win was an example of what has driven Florida fans crazy under Napier, and watching it happen again, I think just made them irate. No one threw a shoe. I'm trying to find the positives. There was no shoe throwing. We went with the spitting. It's a new era, different time, going on. But yeah, this is. I mean, these next 2 games for Billy Napier are must, if not must win. They've got to be. You kind of need to win one of them, and you're playing number 3 and number 5.
The landmark moment of the shoe throwing of when things turned. I know they went on and played in the SEC championship game that year, but under Dan Mullen, it turned on a shoe throw, and they kind of squandered a chance to win a game at home against LSU. Now post spit, they've got LSU again. It's funny how things come full circle, Dan. It just happens that way sometimes.
Interesting about Napier's buyout is there's no offset or mitigation. So he gets it all, which is pretty rare. Like even like Lincoln Riley's like $100 million contract, I think the buyout's around 80 now. Like if he goes and becomes a $5 million a year NFL play caller or whatever, like Chip did, Chip's making more than that. But like that would get offset from the buyout. So you can make it more manageable. This is like 20 million, I believe 10 million in the first 30 days. I think it's 20.4, 10 million, half of it in the first 30 days. And then they have to just pay the rest, which is, look, I don't care where you are. Like that in modern college football, that's just a lot. That's a lot of money. So it would be interesting. A year ago, when we were having this very same conversation about Napier after they got pantsed at home against A&M, was that week 2 or 3 last year? Week 2, right?
Yeah, it was early. I know they'd already gotten clobbered by Miami at home.
Yes, and I think they were.
Yeah.
The difference at Florida now compared to then was Scott Strickland, the AD, was going toward the end of his contract and believed to be, the question was, would he be able to hire a third coach? Since that time, Florida obviously won the national title in basketball. That was Strickland's hire. He just got quietly extended through, I believe, 2030, maybe even 31. So it will be his call. As ADs, you don't get to hire a third coach very often, just as these things work. But the way his contract has now been extended, it would seem to be that. But boy, look, we sat here a year ago and said hard to see Billy Napier getting out of this, and he did at 8-5. But he's 20-20 through 40 games, and that is just not what the expectation is at Florida. I will leave with this thought, and this is a topic that will be evergreen for us here on Mondays. If you fire Billy Napier, do you risk losing DJ Lagway? He was very clear about his fidelity towards him. That's certainly something you'd talk about before you make the decision. But I do think that's interesting, right? Like, you're going to start over and you're going to, whoever you're bringing in, now they can get their own guy. They can go find a John Mateer or whatever. But I think DJ Lagway is pretty special still. So it's really interesting.
He is, Pete. And I said I'll say the same thing I said a year ago. I hope Billy Napier gets out of this. I think Billy Napier is a good coach. I think he can win in the SEC. They've got to stop having these moments. But whether it's Billy Napier and DJ Lagway or anybody else, if an athletic director makes a coaching decision based on a player, you are doing it wrong. Whether DJ Lagway stays at Florida should have zero, less than zero to do with whether you're keeping the coach. Lagway's a star. There's no question about that. I think he's going to be a great NFL player. As long as he's in college, maybe next year continues to progress. Florida or wherever, Heisman Trophy type guy. It's only a year. It's only a year or two. You cannot make these decisions based on the whim of a player, or I won't even say whim. That's unfair to DJ. The decision of a player and the finite period of time they're in college, it is a massive mistake to decide what you're doing with a coaching future based on what one single player might do. Other than that, I have no opinion on that.
I concur, absolutely. Florida.
Did DJ Lagway try to expand the playoff on you or what?
No,
I'm joking.
I think he's terrific. You should try to keep him.
Yeah.
And I hope he and Billy Napier, I hope they have all the success in the world this year. This might be their Northern Illinois moment. Who knows?
DJ Lagway was on a Gilmore Girl message board and was trashing Lorelai, and Rece is still heated about this. No, I'm
I don't know Gilmore Girls inside out the way I do Andy Griffith or Perry Mason. Pete makes fun of me because I like the old Perry Masons. They put you to sleep. It's great. It's nice, calm, black and white television. Flip it on. You're out in 15 minutes, and you figure Perry got the case right, so you're okay. If you miss the end.
Would people ask me about Rece, Dan, that my answer to them is the best way to sum up Rece Davis is that every night he pours a glass of whole milk and watches Perry Mason before he goes to bed. He's just a good, wholesome American. Straight arrow.
That's it. Great American.
A man who appreciates Starkville, Mississippi, too. A man who knows, thanks to a text from Stark Vegas late Friday evening, that Starkville has been voted the best small town in the South back-to-back years by USA Today. A man who knows about Starkville, that despite chatter from desert precincts earlier in the week, Starkville has hotels within 2 minutes of campus, not an hour and 15. There's no casino in Starkville. Teams, fans, and media comfortably stay right in the best small town in the South. They have a new light show in Starkville, and they got a lot of cowbell. And, man, were they ringing it Saturday night. What a moment. I thought Arizona State had pulled itself out of the fire, and then a catastrophic bust with the touchdown pass Blake Shapen threw to give Mississippi State, I don't know, its biggest win easily. I don't remember Leach having, I guess maybe the win at LSU that Leach had early in his tenure, but in Starkville, I don't remember a bigger win, since sometime in the Mullen era. I mean, that was a major moment for them, and and a real wound for Arizona State, and a great game, by the way, a great atmosphere.
It's fun to see that town going again. That program's been through a lot, man. The death of Leach was obviously just so sad for college football, so sad for that place, and it's just taken that program a while to recover. And you could the best moments in college football you can feel more than see, right? And you could just the energy from the crowd shots and the cowbells and like the longing was palpable watching that the other night. I got a little bit tweaked on Twitter for this, but I will maintain it. And Dan, have you ever been to a game at Davis Wade Stadium?
I've not been to a football game there. I've been to some basketball games.
Yes. And Rece has obviously covered a bunch of games there. When that place is jumping as it did during the Dak Mullen era, it's as loud as any place I've been in college football, period. It's as good of an environment as any place. You can stack them up, line them up. It's great. And it appeared to hit that crescendo on Saturday night. So props to Jeff Lebby for a signature win after going winless in the SEC last year. Props to Blake Shapen, one of these guys who's bounced around, been dogged by injuries, flying over the top of that Arizona State defense. He was electric. And the environment, though, will be the thing I think I remember the most because it's just fun to see a fan base come alive again.
Well, I think Levy had the best week of anybody. Levy had the best week.
Yeah, because they got hope again, and hope's a powerful drug, man.
I think the best crowd reactions are when they're not like. There's something about say Alabama beats Georgia last year. Ryan Williams pulls off that incredible touchdown, but there's a little bit of Alabama fan that going into every play going, "This will work out." Mississippi State fans were like, "This won't work out. We're going to lose." Yeah. And then they won. And it was like, you could see them jumping around. Like, was that AI? Did that happen? Like, can we get a check mark on this? Even though I'm here, it was just unbridled. And they had gotten the whole, Kenny Dillon, you don't disrespect the lodging choices of Starkville, Mississippi, Kenny. What are we doing? They were wearing Starkville versus everybody shirts. You got Starkville to ball up their fists and go, and then they get and Mississippi State was prepared. They put the goalpost down. Credit to the Mississippi State athletic department. You had a game plan on to put goalposts down. When was the last time anyone tore them down? Like what you think you'd be flat-footed? Tennessee, they tear them down, man. They tear them down. They might tear them down. What do we do now? Oh my God, they might. No, they had a plan. Everything went well. They didn't even get the goalposts out of the state. I think they were taken to the junction. They couldn't get it out. I don't know what happened. There's no video of what happened. The goalposts are just gone. It's like a ghost took them. It was incredible scene. Perfect for Mississippi State. Great moment. This fan base, man, you go a couple years of 2-10, 0-8 in the SEC. They just they got it all out in one night. That could not have been, I cannot imagine the loudness that was coming out of Starkville that night.
People like to throw goalposts in rivers. I'm not really sure, as many times as I've been to Starkville, I'm not really sure how far it is to the Tombigbee River. It's there's a Tennessee Tombigbee waterway that powered the entire area. They put the whole area on the grid. That's an "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" reference, Pete, if you ever get a chance to watch that movie. But I don't know how far it is, but usually you throw goalposts in the river. There's always some underwater diver that finds the ones Tennessee threw in the river, and there's some underwater camera that gives you some good footage of that or something. But I don't know where you would throw them once you got them out of there in Starkville.
Can I indulge you with my favorite goalpost story from my career?
Please do.
It was 2003, I believe, and I was a stringer for the New York Times, and they sent me to Colgate to cover the FCS semis. It was 1AA back then. They played, I believe it was Western Illinois. It could have been Eastern. They were huge underdogs. I'm going to tell the story quick. It snowed more than I've ever seen it snow in a football game in my life. Like, it was like 8 inches through the course of a game. It was a blizzard. Colgate pulls a very stunning upset, goes to the national title game. They lost to Delaware. And the fans, who were like raucous during the game, ripped down the goalpost. And they take them like a mile down the street. And there's this huge, beautiful, giant, scenic pond on the cusp of Colgate's campus. So I'm driving back, like white knuckling in my rental car after filing my story that likely ran on D17 of the paper that week. And I just see the goalpost bobbing in the pond. It like through the icy pond. And I called the desk and I was like, we got to rewrite our lead here.
Yeah. You ever torn down the goalpost, Dan?
No, I have not. I went to UMass. I thought we were.
Did you ever storm the court? Did you ever?
No, I will say this.
The court?
I didn't storm a court. Last year, though, Bucknell won one, and they carried it to the river in what's the town? Whatever the town, Bucknell City. No, it's not. It's a famous town.
Bucknell City.
I wasn't prepared to tell this story. They carried it over a mountain. It was 4 miles, and they carried it over a mountain.
Really? Lewisburg, Dan. Lewisburg, Pennsylvania.
That's it. Lewisburg. And they threw it. Well, I think it was them. Maybe it was Lehigh. I can't remember. This is not a good story. Maybe I should have just. One time, Rini Angolia ran for 500 yards or something against Delaware. We tore him down at UMass, our great ESPN colleague. No, I don't know. Things are coming down. You get out of the way, man. It's scary on that field. I'm glad Pete almost slid off the river to give the New York Times readers a Bucknell or a Colgate football story. That's good.
They needed to know, Dan. They needed to know.
All the news that's fit to print.
Also, great week for Eli Drinkwitz in Missouri. Did you guys see Bo Prabula? I mentioned him briefly about how great he was. Did you guys see the guy who had a chance to kick for $25,000, which is pocket change compared to what McAfee gives away with our field goal challenge? He knows he can't make it, so he pulls up his shirt. Apparently, he's written FKU on his chest. And then he kicks the ball toward Kansas as if he's kicking the ball at them because he knows he can't make the field goal.
There's a lot to this story now. First off, it was Lehigh fans. Lehigh, let me apologize.
Just hijacks it back.
I'm sorry. I don't need the Lehigh. I don't need Lehigh Twitter on me, okay? Lehigh fans carried it over. I apologize.
They're like blood rivals
Johnson,
too,
a great high school friend of mine, played at Lehigh. I knew this, right? Anyway, I'm name dropping everybody. Lehigh did it. They carried it over the mountain, threw it in the river. Okay, first off, this guy, this story, you're glad you touched on this, Rece, because this one was the most exciting thing. His name's Carter Arey, A-R-E-Y, sorry. He has a prosthetic leg.
Mm-hmm.
He was born with a disease. He had to have his leg amputated. Somehow he got selected to kick the field goal. Okay, I don't know. It was on Instagram. He's a great athlete. He played wheelchair basketball for Team USA. He's a great golfer. He's a great athlete, but he's I'm not going to be able to kick a 45-yard field goal, which would be extremely hard. So he says, forget, I'm not trying the 25,000. He tells his wife the night before his plan. Great for her. She supports it. He comes out with the FKU. Rece can tell you what the F stands for. I'll tell you the KU's Kansas University. He tries to boot the ball. Forget Kansas. Yes, forget. Not forgive.
F's for naysayer, Rece, right?
Yeah. And it is Pete. Oh, and it is Pete. It is Pete.
Sorry.
I'm just telling you. That's what it's for.
That's what it stands for. Yeah. We're just reporting the news here. He boots it at the Kansas sideline. And then does 15 million media interviews after, declares himself a true son of Missouri. Says the reason he was able to pull it off, he was not nervous in front of the big crowd because he had played so many high competitive wheelchair basketball games, and is now he's getting 25,000 of meals paid for in Missouri the rest of his life. This was genius. This is the star of the week. He could not. He said his grandfather taught him to never spend a nickel in the state of Kansas. He hates Kansas. I find the people of Kansas to be quite nice, but I don't know. Apparently, they did fight a war or something, Missouri and Kansas. Anyway, FKU boot the ball at the sideline. No one was injured.
I have a feeling Drink's going to find a role for him on staff, or go to him on a big third down to get the crowd fired up.
Got it. Yeah.
Much like, I'm going to get to what went wrong or what we were wrong about, what might need some further evaluation, but pure unadulterated emotion seemed to be on display at your school there, Pete. You've been giving Dan a hard time. Fran Bran goes high school football, which I've actually seen this happen in high school. You think you're so big and bad that we didn't play up to our standards, so we're going to let everybody know that by running sprints in the post game as punishment. They won. What?
Yeah, barely won, but they won.
Yeah. What'd you think of
Syracuse
that?
grit.
Yes, they did have grit. Hey, can't be losing to those New England schools now. It's very interesting. Fran Bran has done a wonderful job there, right? He gets Kyle McCord. They win 10 games. He is an adrenaline shot to that place. For as many transfers as they got and got attention for, it's a very young team. A very, very young team. And they have, and the way Dan was just sort of mentioning basketball recruiting, they have gone young and gotten high school recruits, and they're going to try to grow them. And that's kind of been their strategy. So the fact that they're struggling a little bit is not surprising, because they've just, they're a younger team, a lot of new places and new faces. So the Herb Brooks at the artist formerly known as the Carrier Dome, that was a sight. That was a sight, because the press box, we've all been to games there, is very low. Like, you weren't hiding it. You were doing this literally in front of like the media assembled. I would obviously be curious if it worked. It feels to me a little bit of a risky move in the NIL era, but you got to know your team. And if he thinks this is going to galvanize, maybe it does.
Well, that's the thing. You have to know them, because you will lose them, because every team that has ever existed, every single one of them, no matter the magnitude of the coach or what the coach has accomplished, whether he's a new coach or whether he's the winningest coach in the history of their respective sport, every team makes fun of their coach. Every single one has a guy who can do a dead-on impression of the coach. They pick up on every little nuance and mannerism, and they mock him endlessly. That's just the way it is. Fran gave them some material. So the question is now, did it work? What message did it send? How did it help them win? Was it about them? Was it about the coaches? There are a lot of questions there. Maybe it's no big deal. Maybe that's what he said. You guys don't do this, you do X, Y, or Z. See what I do. And then he backed up his word. Then that's fine. Everybody makes their decisions, and every decision comes with risk, because as we've learned, there is no such thing, Pete, as a risk-free investment. All decisions and choices and investments have risk. I thought this was common knowledge to people. I assumed that people had gone out of their domains. I assumed that people had walked about in life and that they realized that there's inherent risk with every choice you make. But apparently, some people don't know that, so you have to tell them.
Do we want an update on what happened to the Mississippi State goalpost?
Where did they go? I've been trying to find this out.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is from someone deep Bulldog sources. We had our facility staff take them down right after the game. Then they led the goalpost across the field with the students. Once the students put them all down and the fans cleared the stadium, our facility teams picked the goalposts back up and put them on. The posts were all up by the time I left the stadium.
They couldn't get them out of the stadium. They couldn't get them out.
In Stark Vegas, it's all part of the show. So they never got them out.
They did not get him out, because there would have been.
I didn't get him out.
I hit up some Mississippi State fans, some sources I had, trying to find out where they went, and nobody knew. They didn't get him out of the stadium. So Mississippi State is their goalpost defense elite.
Goalposts are expensive. They're like 10 grand, aren't they? Yeah. They're not inexpensive.
There are things already in this early part of the season that I've discovered that I was wrong about. I spent a lot of time going, okay, Iowa got Mark Gronowski now, got a quarterback, going to change them with the defense. Iowa's still defense. Gronowski, I hope it changes for him. He's a tough guy. He's from Naperville, Illinois. He's tough. Because
got to kick doors down to get out of Naperville.
Yeah, so
it's a double door with the Italian marbling.
Gronowski's a really good player. He's a tough guy, and he's a good leader, and he gives some stability at quarterback. But through a couple of games of evidence, and Pete knows I like to say there's no rule against improvement, even within a season. The idea that he is going to make Iowa a force on offense has not yet materialized. So I've been wrong about that. And they lost in a typical Cy-Hawk game, lost on a late field goal to Iowa State, who I do believe in. And the idea that Clemson would take the next step. I noticed our buddy Bill Connolly said, he didn't see what some of this, like I did and still do, believe that Clemson can win the national championship. He didn't see that. I see transformative pieces who have not yet done that for them. Klubnik didn't make a huge difference in the LSU game, still a terrific player, but didn't do that. And more to the point, they're defensive line stars, potential stars, didn't make a huge impact on the game in terms of negative plays, sacks, forcing turnovers, things of that nature. And then they played great against Troy. So that's I'm not giving up yet, but it appears that I might have been wrong about Clemson. I'm still on the Clemson bandwagon, still think they can be really good, still think they can win it all. But that is, that's a tough look out of the gate so far. I will give them a little bit of a pass. Sometimes you play a game like LSU at home, it doesn't end the way you want it to. You don't play to the level you'd like. Some disappointment. Sometimes there's a little bit of malaise. You factor in the weather thing also. Maybe you give them a pass, but I'm starting to wonder if Clemson is going to take the step that I expected. And I hope that Kansas State gets it turned around, because I don't want losing in Dublin to become a thing to losing the season, because that's such a great event. They do such a great job with it. Florida State went off the rails, and then now Kansas State has lost to Army, who lost to Tarleton State. So those are some things I need to reevaluate, perhaps I was flat out wrong about.
So I was a little bit bearish on Tennessee. Now, again, we'll know a lot more after Saturday. They played Syracuse, which is still running wind sprints in the artist formerly known as the Carrier Dome. And then they played I believe East Tennessee State, who is not very good. But in the very small sample size of Tennessee, they have gotten back their identity in their offense and their throw over the top after being a run game defense program last year, which was just a little bit jarring and weird to see a Josh Heupel team play and win that way, and credit him for doing it and for getting them to the playoff that way. Right. They are back sort of high flying and over the top. And that is one thing that I was not ready to see immediately. And I think the credit to where they deserve credit, where others are maybe struggling, is how do you get your quarterback, especially your quarterback who shows up post-spring, how do you integrate him and get him going and ripping and roaring right away? Like you mentioned Reese Gronowski. I remember last year at this time, Riley Leonard was kind of like, is he really the real deal at Notre Dame? He ended up fine. Yep. It takes some time to do this stuff. So credit to Tennessee. I didn't think they'd come out of the gate 150 miles an hour like they have.
I was high on Tennessee, and I am really feeling good about it. We'll know a lot more against Georgia. I'm taking the praise. What do we do? What are we trashing ourselves for? What we got wrong? We don't get anything wrong. I was right about Tennessee. They got a program. Also, I love their schedule. I was wrong about West Virginia. I'll say that. I thought they'd be better. They lost 17-10 at Ohio. Great scene down there in Athens, Ohio. Huge win for some action, but I was wrong about that. But I was right about Tennessee. I also thought Aiden Childs at Michigan State was going to do a lot, and he is. That was a great victory for Michigan State. Michigan State game was awesome.
Awesome game.
Really good match teams. Went to double overtime. But Aiden's he's a player, man, and if Michigan State keeps improving, they're gonna have a nice season, and I love that matchup. So I'm going with what's right. I get told I'm wrong. You know how many people have already? How many Lehigh fans are angry at me right now? Do you know how many? All of them, both of them.
You're just saying Adrian's rundown is wrong. Is that what you're calling our producer out on, Dan? You've been on for like 10 minutes.
I gave you West Virginia. I was wrong about UCLA. I was wrong. Mainly, I was wrong about everything.
Boy, did they look awful.
Yeah, they looked better. Looked like they might pull it out of the fire. And then Nico had the deflection, interception, and really a fascinating thing. We're going to spend some time on it Saturday on College Game Day. We've talked Nico, but Joey Aguilar, in what was a de facto trade, has stepped in there. Granted, he has a better situation at Tennessee than Nico has in terms of personnel around him and continuity and so forth. Not for Joey, but for the other people. He's got a better situation. But it's an interesting story about, this guy, he comes in and now he's reaping the benefits. So Adrian makes the idea, let's do an episode and let's close like this. What are you most proud of being right about, Dan? It can be about where guys are from. It can be college football. It can be pop culture. Anything. What are you most proud about being right about?
I was right about Oregon. They're really good.
Yeah.
I know Oklahoma State Gundy fed the fire. Like, I don't understand this whole bit. Gundy's like, well, they pay all their players more. Like, this is a bad thing. Like, that's the rule now. It'd be like going, like, I just don't understand this mindset. Like, there's something to be ashamed of because you actually paid the players. It would be like saying we don't give full scholarships 6 years ago. We make them pay some of it. Like there's some kind of extra benefit to this of not paying. Oregon is completely like to beat Oklahoma State 69-3 is unbelievable victory for Oregon. Yeah. And I think that the Ducks have done it so well the last 2 years, and obviously running into that buzzsaw at Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. They really not get a good deal out of that playoff seeding, and not getting the home game that they had earned. But look, this team is an absolute juggernaut right now. And I'm fascinated to see what happens the rest of this year. But Dante Moore has stepped right in, and the Ducks are really good, and no one's really talking about them. But you just don't beat a Big 12 team, let alone Oklahoma State, 69-3, and not be really, really good. I mean, that's an FCS score. That's an FCS score.
Can't wait to see them play Penn State on the 27th. It's going to be great.
Awesome. Can I ask a rhetorical question? Would Mike Gundy be the single best TV commentator or the single worst TV commentator? Because it would be one of the two, and I really don't know which one.
He could choose. He could be the best.
Mm-hmm. If he would be so unfiltered and so direct that it could be awesome. But he's also like so wacky and oblivious a little bit. Like he's just kind of in his own world that he could be really awful.
Yes, this was a lot of fun. Enjoy great weekend of college football and another great weekend coming up. College Game Day going to Rocky Top, where we've had spectacular crowds the last few years. Georgia coming in. Georgia sort of stumbling around by their standards in the early going. We'll see if they can get it together there. We'll talk more about that later in the week. Thanks for listening to the College Game Day podcast. Download wherever you prefer to get your podcast, or better yet, subscribe so you never miss a single episode and you stay tough no matter where you hail